Hello. It is the Friday after the Eurovision semi-finals and before the grand final, and I'm going to try and bash out both my semi-final thoughts videos now before I go for Shabbat. If you're new here, I love Eurovision. I grew up with it. It was a massive thing in our household and has continued with me for every year. The year Holland won was like my reaction. I can't tell you. I think I filmed it. I'll try and link it up if I did. But it was a big year for me. And every year I definitely root for Holland. I usually also root for Belgium, and I usually really root against Australia because I don't think they should be in Eurovision. But in this video, I'm going to talk about my semi-final 1 thoughts. I wrote them all down. And then I will talk about my semi-final 2 and grand final thoughts in later videos, probably next week or the week after, I think, for you, not for me, hopefully. So let's crack on. Now, also in recent years, I've not listened to any of the songs before the Eurovision shows. I think I'm hoping to change that for next year because I do we usually discuss it with my parent, well, especially with my father, and I think I miss that. So I think I will revert back to listening to all the songs once before the show. But in this case, I was going in completely blind. The only little tiny bit of Eurovision I'd heard was the UK's song, and specifically the bit of the chorus, because I heard that a couple of times on Instagram. But aside from that, no idea. Now, I did, I think, actually record a little bit before it started, so let me put that in now. Hello. It is 1 minute to 8, and Eurovision's going to be starting really soon. I'm currently watching the non-stop hits, but only literally for the last 2 minutes. I haven't even listened to a full song, but it's just hit me. It's literally only just hit me at 1 minute to 8 that it's Eurovision, and I'm so excited. I don't have a lot of space on my camera, so we'll see how much I end up filming on here or on my phone or when, because I just need to clear some space on my computer. That's the main thing. I'm a little bit nervous because I haven't found the link for it yet, but I'm wondering if that's because it's not live yet. But it's never been a problem before, so hopefully we'll be okay. I'm very excited. Oh, hang on. There's a place for the links. Let me see if I can find them. Oh, it's not available? That's not fair. It is 10 past and I've just got in through Australia. That was not fun. That was stressful. I hope they haven't started. I need to get my notebook. I need to figure out what I'm going to do. Oh no, okay, they're welcoming. Yay! I'm very excited. I hope that worked. And you would have seen in that clip that I couldn't get it started. So I missed the first 10 minutes or so, but luckily that was before the songs actually started. But what I heard the commentators say about Iceland was that it was going to be a sea shanty vibe, and that made me curious because I do think I like that style. So I was like, okay, let's see what this is. And I wrote, I liked the start. I loved the swimming, whatever that was. I don't even know what that means. Then I wrote, yeah, I like this. But then I also wrote the quality kept dropping, and I think that was just because of my connection. But we got it sorted in the end. It's okay. Then when Poland started, the first thing I just wrote was, And thinking back now, I can't remember what Poland was. Was it the woman in a black suit, maybe? The one who flew? Potentially, I can't remember. And I wrote, Eurovision loves violins. And I don't know why I wrote it in quotation marks. Is it because they weren't really violins but other string instruments? I can't remember. And this was the flying one, because then I wrote, ooh, flying, cool. And then when she sung this high note, I guess, it kind of sounded screechy, and I don't know if that was meant to be more of a screech or if it was meant to be sung and her vocals let her down. So I was a bit like, I think I would have preferred this if it had been a high note rather than a screech. But maybe that was intentional. I don't know. Then Slovenia started, and just when they were showing the postcard, I was like, he looks really familiar, the guy, but I just don't know why. And I never did find out why. And that was also the first song where I noticed how they were presenting the countries, on the screen with the letters and stuff. And I thought that was very cool. And then when it started, I just wrote, oh, is this going to be sad? And then the next note I wrote was, oh, this is going to be real sad. And then because of the way cameras work in Eurovision, sometimes you don't know what they're actually doing on stage. So he was hanging upside down, and I wrote, is this upside down? Because you couldn't actually be sure if he was hanging until it sort of zoomed out a bit. But I was very impressed by that because I know it must be very tough to sing upside down. And then I just wrote, I want that woman's role, as she didn't have to sing or do anything, which I probably shouldn't have said because that might be his actual wife. And, obviously it's quite a sad story and song, but I would do anything to be on stage at Eurovision, to perform at Eurovision. Last year we were discussing that I should represent San Marino because they bring in I think last year the person who was representing San Marino was from 3 different countries and not from San Marino. And I'm just saying, I'd have a lot of support from lots of different countries. So San Marino, hit me up. I think I said that when Holland won as well. I was like, I will happily represent Holland because we don't need to do well this year because we're already in the final. And I'm Dutch. I'm very proud to be Dutch. Holland is like the main country I root for. It is the only country, not the only country, but it is the most consistent country I root for and care most about in Eurovision. Just saying. But if I had to represent Australia, if that would be my way of getting onto Eurovision, I would. I have an Australian passport. Australians, you need a European who's going to have lots of votes from friendly countries. Just saying. Then Estonia started. And looking back now, like knowing that that was the first time I heard the song, I don't even know what to say. Suffice it to say, I love Estonia now. But let's have a look at my notes. The very, very opening sound, it was like an ah kind of sound, really sounded like the start of a Kadri song. But it was like literally, half a second. But it did throw me off for a moment. Then the next thing I wrote was, is he singing about coffee? And then I mentioned I liked the I Love Eurovision post-it that he had. I wrote interesting dance moves. I wrote he's going to go through. Then I wrote I don't dislike it. I do think I enjoy it. And then I don't know why I've written party for everybody, love that. I'm not sure. Maybe he said that in the song. But it's so funny to me that when I was writing this, the most enthusiastic I was about it was to say, I do think I enjoy it. Whereas now I'm like, I want it to be one of the winning songs, or at least in the top 5. Then there was a little interval break where the 2 hosts spoke. I did really like the hosts this year. To be fair, I like them most years, but Mans and Petra are going to be hard to beat. And we have had some years where it's been, I don't know, not quite as good. And this year I thought they were very good. But I didn't know, when they said about, there's going to be a couple of songs that you're going to know, I was like, am I going to know them? Because even though I know Eurovision and I know Eurovision songs, I don't really know that many pop songs. And so the first one was a Chihuahua song, which I didn't know. The second one was a Ma Chérie song, which I also didn't know. But then the third one was the chicken song, which I did know, and I wrote, no way this one was Swiss originally. Like the anyway. Then I've kind of put Spain in brackets because it wasn't being judged, if that makes sense. And also I think I was trying to do something else at the same time, potentially. I can't remember. I always try and use those bits to do other things because I know I'll be seeing it again. But I wrote, not super sure how to feel about this, not against it, and feels Eurovision-y though, which I love. And then for the end, I just wrote, ending pose was so unnecessary, but I loved it. And Eurovision is all about doing unnecessary things. Next, Ukraine. Not the opening I was expecting, but okay. Ooh, I love the pink. Were they wearing pink? They must have been wearing pink. Oh, and maybe they got changed. Then when I think it was a guy, was singing solo, I wrote, ooh, okay, not sold on it. But I don't think I disliked the other bits. It was just, I don't know. It was just the solo bits that I didn't like as much. And then there was a blackout, which I thought was a technical issue, on our end or on my end, but it was part of the song. And I was like, oh, okay, now Sweden. Next, we had Sweden. Crazy, again, to think that this was only on a couple of days ago, my first introduction to this song. Because let me tell you, I know we need to go through the notes, but this song has been in my head non-stop since Tuesday. I can't do anything without having it stuck in my head, which has meant that I've played it a lot, which means that it's definitely going to be in my Spotify end of year stuff. And I'm really expecting it to show that I was listening to it the most sort of this week of May. I should learn the lyrics. So in the 2 days prior to Eurovision, to the semi-final, I had heard really good things about Sweden, so I was curious, which meant I wasn't expecting this because Sweden's just known for doing more regular pop songs. They're not known for leaning into the Eurovision of it. But let's have a look at the notes. So the first thing I wrote was that the lead singer, for a split second, looked really familiar. I think like an actor. But the more I've seen of all 3 of them, I don't really know why I thought that. Then I wrote, yeah, I like this, very silly. Then I wrote, is the song just about a sauna? This is so silly, I love it. Very not typical of Sweden, they usually send real stuff. I love this, super catchy. This is fantastic. Sweden is my top pick. I've been discussing it with my family, and and not just my family, online. Everyone is saying this is the first time that we feel Sweden really deserves to win. We don't want Sweden to have another win because they've won too many times already, and I don't want them to take over the top spot from Ireland. But with this song, they absolutely deserve it. Then Portugal started, and I wrote, okay, very different from the last song. It wasn't standing out to me, but I didn't dislike it. It just was a bit of a meh song, just somewhere in the middle. And then I wrote Love the Screens, which I'm not 100% sure what was happening, but obviously there was something I enjoyed about it. Then it was Norway, and the first thing I wrote was Sweden and Norway in the same semi-final. That's too easy. Because they're gonna vote for each other. They're gonna vote for each other. Then I wrote cool staging / lighting. Oh, I like the dancing, very strong. Fire, cool. I thought it was finished, it like stopped for a moment, and then they kept going. A very nice high note, very cool break dancer, and I didn't dislike it, but not a top favourite so far. That's what I wrote about it. Belgium. As I say, I usually root for Belgium, and I just wrote, not at all sold on this, I wanted to like it. And I don't know if there's something I missed about it, because people seemed so enthusiastic, and I just did not get it. But maybe I'll listen to the song again now after Eurovision and realise that actually I did miss something great about it. But it was one that I didn't mind if it wouldn't go through, which is very rare because usually I am rooting for Belgium. Then it was Italy and I just wrote, ooh, subtitles. And during this one, Wayne came home from work, so we were chatting a bit and I kind of wasn't fully watching or listening, so I just wrote not too sure, but I also maybe I'll enjoy it more tomorrow night. Then Azerbaijan, I was still sort of chatting to Wayne a little bit, so couldn't pay too much attention. But from what I could gather, I liked the stage, I liked the costumes, but I just didn't love the performance. Then San Marino, I wrote, interesting mask. Is that AI in the background? It better not be. That was the statue thing that was chewing. It better not be. Eurovision should have a rule that there's no AI allowed. And then I wrote, I think I like the chorus / beat drop. I think they're like tutta l'Italia or however it goes. I think I liked that bit. Then I just wrote, ouch, eyes hurt, because there was a lot of strobe lighting. And I wrote, don't hate it, but definitely not my favourite. For Albania, I wrote, ooh, gorgeous dress. She was wearing, I think, a big red dress, I think. I could be mistaken. And then I just wrote, don't get it at all and not sold on it. And again, maybe I'm just missing something here because people seem quite keen on it. And it's the last one tomorrow night, so hopefully I'll get a chance to watch it and, reevaluate my thoughts on it. But yeah, it just didn't do it for me on Tuesday night. All right, Holland. So again, a couple of days before the semi-final, I had heard from my family that they were expected to do quite well and that I would like the song. But aside from that, I didn't know anything about it. So I wrote, big fan of him singing in French. Before he started the la 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 vie, I wrote, so far I'm enjoying it. And then I thought he rhymed something with miserable. And I thought that was a funny line in the way they did it. Then I wrote, yeah, I do like this. Love the dancers, so strong. And of course violins. And with the kid, that's so sweet. That was when there was a reflection with a child. And I wrote, I did really enjoy that. Not top of the night, but I did really enjoy it. But I mean, how can you fight with bastu, bastu? Then Croatia, I wrote, strange but don't dislike it, but wish it would stop focusing on the lead singer and show more of the dancers. One thing you may already have picked up on from my notes and maybe from past years if you've watched my videos on this, I often find the dancers far more enjoyable to watch than the singers. The dancers often are the standout for me, and so I was kind of I want to watch the dancers. Then it showed Switzerland, and I wrote, she was singing with her hands, I felt, and that annoyed me, but then I realised later on maybe she's playing an instrument because there was one bit where it looked like she was playing a harp. But in general, I didn't like the whole, singing with the hands. Yeah. But I did write it was a nice song otherwise, and she looked nice, and the lights were very pretty. In fact, the word I used was gorgeous. Cyprus, I like the opening pose / poses. Really cool staging. The song is fine, but the staging makes me want it to go through. Again, the eyes hurt a little from all the strobes, and I liked the ending where it sort of zoomed in just to a small portrait frame. I liked that. So then I made a list of my wants and my expected numbers. So for my wants, I had Iceland, Estonia, Sweden, Holland, San Marino, and with a question mark Cyprus and with a question mark Norway. And from what I expected was Estonia, Iceland, Ukraine, Sweden, Holland, Norway, and San Marino. So just before we go to all my other thoughts on the rest of the show and the results, I got 6 out of 7 that I wanted and 6 out of 7 that I expected. All right, the intermission. I really enjoyed the start of Eurovision story. I actually can't remember it now, but obviously they spoke about Eurovision starting up and only having, I think it was 7 countries and whatever. Then when they did the song that was sort of to counter Swiss stereotypes or about Swiss stereotypes, as soon as it started, I was like, oh, this is going to be good. And I wrote, really enjoy this. I love this. And then I quoted in the mid-50s of the 13th century, which I just thought was a stupid but hilarious line. And I wrote, yes, wicked reference. And then when Petra came out, my reaction, I genuinely gasped out loud. I was like, oh my goodness. Because it took me a second to clock. I was like, oh, this is fun. And then I was like, hang on. That was incredible. That was amazing. That was so fantastic. Oh, the next note I made was, this is fantastic. Then I also wrote, I love the Roger Federer references. I didn't even think, obviously I know he's Swiss, but I just never, ever would have thought that he would be mentioned in Eurovision. Like, it was just not something that crossed my mind at all. And it just kept happening and I loved it. And then when it finished, I just wrote, best part of the evening. Then I can't remember what the next section was, but they were playing Euphoria. And I was like, why are they playing Euphoria? There are so many other songs to choose from. That's not even Swiss. I don't get it. And then I love the compilation of the high notes and then also all the other highest records. And so I just wrote highest hats, fantastic. Highest hair, brilliant. Most laws in a song, hilarious. Most claps in a song, also hilarious. And then they initially said this was the most sustainable ESC that they've done so far, which I said, great if true. But they then very quickly turned that into a joke about recycling. I can't remember if it was recycling hosts or singers or what it was, but that made me unsure if they actually meant it about being the most sustainable, and I really hope they were. I hope that gets better every year. Another reason not to use AI, might I add. And then they did the compilation of the most streamed non-winners, and I did love it. For a lot of the ones, I was like, those are the songs I thought should have won. Except like one or two. There were one or two where I thought, no, I don't agree with that song having done well. But there was no Europapa. And so we're going to have some words. We're going to have some words. Then I wrote, Celine Dion. Yay. Then when they did her song, I wrote, Pretty Lights. Pretty Lights. That's all I said. And then they did a popular reference and a Holding Space reference. And I was like, this is so unexpected, but fantastic. I love it. And then I think they were handing out pillows with Roger Federer's face on it, and I just thought that was hilarious. And I don't think it was like made a big deal of, and I think it did happen. And I thought that was very funny. And then I just wrote very entertaining and funny. And then they were talking, I can't remember who they were talking to, but they were saying something about that they can do a cool tongue thing, and I can do that tongue thing. And I just thought it was so funny that they were showing it and, making a big deal of it. And I was like, I can do that. I'm in the club with you. So yeah, that got me excited. Then they were going to start announcing the results. And one of the things, I think it was Hazel said, she was saying something about like, we'll put through the 10 and then we'll be disappointing the remaining 5. That is the game. And she said it so straight-faced, and I just thought it was really funny. Actually, the word I wrote was brilliant. Then they split the screen into 3. So for the first 3, I actually expected all 3 of them to end up going through, and that was Norway, Estonia, and Iceland. And upon reflection, I think all 3 did. Yes, upon reflection, they did all go through. But of the 3, I thought it's going to be Norway, and I can't remember if that was the one that did go through. I can't remember. Then of the next 3 that they showed, which was Ukraine, Albania, and Poland, I sort of was rooting for or expecting Ukraine out of those 3. And when they announced Albania, I wrote, I did not expect that. Then it was Cyprus, Belgium, and Sweden, and I wrote, not Belgium, surely. And it was Sweden, and I was like, yeah. Then it was Iceland, Portugal, and San Marino, and I wrote, not expecting Portugal. But again, out of those 3, I think all 3 ended up going through. And then when it was Iceland, I was like, yay, that's nice. I'm happy about that. Then it was Estonia, Holland, and Azerbaijan, and I wrote, out of these 3, probably not Azerbaijan, and it was Holland, yay! There was one year where they left Holland as like either the 9th or the 10th to be announced, and that was so stressful. So it's nice to be announced a little bit earlier. Then it was Croatia, Cyprus, and Poland, and out of these 3, I wasn't entirely sure, but I guessed Cyprus, and it was Poland, and I just wrote, okay. And my father, I think, had said that he was expecting Poland to go through. Then it was Slovenia, Ukraine, and San Marino, and for that one I didn't put down a guess, but it was San Marino, and I wrote, okay, good. Then it was Estonia, Croatia, Belgium, and I wrote, please Estonia, and it was, and I just wrote, yes, yay! And then I sort of went back to my list, and I said, of the remaining ones, I need Ukraine and Cyprus to get everything right that I guessed, but let's see. And then when Portugal got through, I wrote, okay, that's nice, but not something I expected or necessarily wanted, but okay. And then because there was only one slot left, I thought between Cyprus and Ukraine, I think I'd rather have Cyprus. Now I've written here a note, which is so interesting to me, that I wrote it, and like in this moment. This must have been like as they were sort of delaying the final announcement. Sometimes when I go to an audition, and if it's an in-person audition and I hear the person before me, sometimes I know, before I've even done my audition, I'm not getting this job. That person's better than me, and they've auditioned loads of other people, I'm sure, as well. And I go in and I do my thing, but I know I'm not going to get it. And I was wondering, like, as I was watching this, do you think any of the performers there had that same feeling of like, I know I'm not going to get this, I know I'm not going to get through? everyone else was better than me. I just wonder if they think that or realise that. But anyway, then it was Ukraine that was announced, and I said, okay, it was expected, but still kind of a shame in a way. And just upon reflection, I was like, I was most surprised by Albania, but actually, upon further reflection, I am most surprised by Portugal, but I am happy that they went through. And then I just wrote, United by Music song, cute. All right, half an hour later, we have made it through the semi-final 1 thoughts, and I will try and do the semi-final 2 ones now as well, so that you can see them next week, and also because I want to have them done before the final results have happened, because I feel like that might skew my opinions or whatever. But let me know what you thought while you were watching the first semi-final. Do you agree with some of the stuff I said? Do you disagree? Very happy for you to disagree. That's what it's all about, opinions. And I'll see you all very shortly. Bye!